Washington, D.C., retired Lieutenant Colonel and Senior Fellow and Military Expert at Defence Priorities, Daniel Davis. Mr. Davis, thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me here.
Now, what do you expect will be Trump's approach as the Koreas try and diffuse tensions?
Well, what he's said publicly is that, yeah, sure, I'm all for talks. You know, he hopes something can work out. So at least ostensibly that he's all for talks. But I think what we have to make sure that we understand, or what I hope that the administration understands, is that negotiations are not one-way affairs. In other words, if we come into this and we say, yeah, we'll talk as long as you do what we tell you, then we're not going to get very far. And that's not going to work towards our advantage or anyone else. Anytime you get into negotiations, you know, it's implicit that there could be some give and some take. And so we have to at least be conceptually willing to give in to North Korea on some of their security requirements if we're ever even going to have the possibility of getting to a denuclearized peninsula.
Right. So then what would be your take on what the smartest strategy would be to take in terms of what the United States should offer?
Well, first and foremost, I believe that we have to unequivocally communicate our strong military deterrent, i.e. that if they ever use any of their weapons in an offensive way, if they ever attack the United States or any of our allies, that they can count on an overwhelming and an immediate military retaliation. However, if they do not use any of those weapons, then they don't have anything to fear of our attack. So what we have to, the bottom line is up front, is that if you use them, you're going to get hit. But then let's talk about what we can do to get to a denuclearized position. And right now, North Korea doesn't trust us very much. And right now, we seem to be coming at it where we're saying, okay, you have to do what we say before we'll even talk. And this is going to take a long time. The other thing I want to really point out is that any negotiations, especially with this much at stake, we can count on them taking a long time. There can be, you know, high points, low points, and all that. But what's critically important is that we keep the situation, the conflict, if you will, in the terms of words and a diplomatic in an interchange, and not on a military phase.
Right. And is the United States concerned at all that North Korea could pull Seoul away from its U.S. ally?
I don't think there's any chance of that whatsoever. I mean, Seoul has more incentive than anyone to have this resolved peacefully, because they know that no matter who might possibly start anything at all, they're the ones who are going to face the brunt of anything. So they want to have this resolved in a peaceful way. And, of course, so do we, because they're our ally. We have our own personnel, military personnel there, and upwards of 100,000 additional just American civilians that are in there. So we have a strong incentive to do that. And the thought that they would pull away from us or vice versa, I just think is not going to happen at all. And certainly that's what North Korea would attempt to do. I mean, I would expect nothing less, but that has virtually no chance to succeed, because the power that the United States has, both economic and military, it can't even be scratched at the surface in North Korea. So there's no motivation or incentive whatsoever for Seoul to give in to something like that.
All right, and just briefly, do you believe that if tensions diffuse between the South and North Korea, that we start to see Trump tone down his rhetoric, using the term rocket man, trying to, I believe, egg on Kim Jong-un there?
Well, that's certainly what I hope happens. I hope that instead of what we saw in mid-December, where Secretary of State Tillerson, who was talking about diplomacy and how he would like to have talks and then got shut down by other administration officials, what I hope this time is that instead we see the Secretary of State supported and encouraged. And so hopefully Trump will take anything that's positive and build on that, and then support the talks. So that's certainly what we hope happens.
And if North Korea won't budge on denuclearizing the country, how do you believe Trump will unfold this? What will be his next step?
Right. What we need to do is, with always keeping up front the military deterrent in place so that we know that we can have assurances that he's not going to use any of those, we need to just keep the pressure on. I mean, the sanctions have just been put on in September, and then another version in December. Those things need to have some time, because, I mean, look at how long it took sanctions to start to have an effect in Iran, leading to the JCPOA agreement in 2015, I believe it was. And so we need to let those things take time. We can't be impatient. I think that's one of the messages that I'd like to send on, that we need to be diplomatically patient and understand that things can take time, and as long as there's no military engagement, nobody's being killed, that's a good thing.
Mr. Davis, thank you so much. Really appreciate that insight here.